Hello and welcome to Hugh's Reviews, the place for movie views and spoiler clues. You know, there was only one movie in theaters this week I genuinely wanted to watch, and that was The Kitchen. Call me an optimist, but I still want to find a Melissa McCarthy movie that doesn't make me want to rip my eyes out and throw them against a wall. Well, fate was cruel, or perhaps kind to me, because The Kitchen received such horrendous reviews upon release that it was yanked out of theaters before I could see it. I guess I'll have to wait for the DVD to dash myself against that particular rock. So instead, I turned my weary gaze to the local listings and found myself faced with a choice. A horror movie that looked awful, a shark movie that looked worse, a cynical Disney cash grab, or two potentially good dramas. One about a dying grandmother and the other a coming-of-age story set to the music of Bruce Springsteen. As some of you may know, the Dying Grandmother film hit a little too close to home for me right now, so I decided on the coming-of-age flick. No, I am not a Springsteen fan, and yes, I acknowledge I will receive packages of excrement and other assorted bodily fluids for saying that. But let's give it a look anyway. Will Blinded by the Light be yet another beat-for-beat retread of the tropes this sort of movie turns into so often, or can it manage something fresh and inspiring? Well, let's take a look at the plot. The son of lower middle-class working parents wants to break the chains of tradition and express himself through his art. He finds solace in the works of another artist he greatly admires, all the while being berated by his peers, the man, and his family. Will he be justified in his dreams, or will he be forced to face harsh reality and become another cog in the mundanity machine? Will his disapproving traditionalist father show up just in time to see the son's big moment and acknowledge with proud tears that his son was right all along? You know, this isn't giving me a lot of hope, guys. Seen it, been there, please let the credits roll sooner rather than later. But okay, every movie is different, so I went, and then I watched the film. And yep, that's exactly what happens. It's a plot and a movie we've seen 47,000 times before, and this attempt at number 47,001 didn't really give us anything new. The fact that the movie seems to care more about Springsteen's lyrics than the main character Javed's journey didn't really help matters. I know that the movie is based on the real-life story of journalist and author Sarfraz Manzoor, who was inspired by Springsteen's small-city hardworking angst, and even to this day attends his concerts. But the music should have been seen as the impetus for the boy's journey, not as the focus of the film itself. In the end, the movie wasn't so much a story of finding inspiration and following your dreams as it was a series of Springsteen-worshipping music video montages with character moments sprinkled in between. The sudden bursts of music and dancing may have been a stylistic choice based on a cultural form of filmmaking I am inexperienced with, but that doesn't make the lackluster retread of a plot anything I haven't seen before. Even though you haven't seen this movie, trust me, you've seen it. I know director Gurinder Chadha is known for blending Western filmmaking with Bollywood flair, but I haven't seen any of her other movies. No, not even Bend It Like Beckham. Yes, I acknowledge there are gaps in my watch list, but I sought to view this movie on its own merits, and as a film in its own right, I found Blinded by the Light boring and predictable. For one thing, it is a little hard to feel the struggle of the protagonist when literally everything goes his way except for the father-son dynamic. Javed's transition from shy, frightened boy to confident man about town came so shockingly fast that I got whiplash. The second he listens to the first strains of Bruce Springsteen's first song, everything immediately starts going his way. You never get a sense that the character is struggling through ups and downs, finding his voice as an author, facing the risk of actual rejection. He just listens to the boss, and it's win after win for the next hour. He gives his poems to his composition teacher. She instantly loves them. No critiques, no helpful suggestions. He is simply brilliant. He makes the editor of the school paper read an article he wrote. Gets the front page. His teacher gets him an internship at the town paper. Still more accolades. Someone enters him in a writing contest and he wins out of thousands of entries and gets a free trip to America. Sings a Springsteen song to the cute girl at school and they fall immediately in love. There's a story in here somewhere about a boy becoming a man and fighting the constraints of his overbearing father, but the real meat of that more personal story is overshadowed by how easy everything else in Javed's life seems to be. Even his run-ins with neo-Nazis are easily overcome with a few of Bruce's lyrics and a smile. I'm reminded of a quote by Roger Ebert. The film knows the words, but it doesn't know the music, which is especially ironic considering how much emphasis is placed on the music in this movie. All that quote really means is that there are shadows of what makes a great movie buried beneath the pieces of this film, but it never seems to understand how to put them together. For a movie so focused on music, the rhythm and flow are so disjointed and broken it was like watching a preschool play of Hamlet. The working-class British city in the midst of the iron-fisted Margaret Thatcher years should have made for a compelling setting. The financial crisis, people out of work, the resurgence of white supremacy, the hardcore conservative politics. Seeing the parallels with today's America isn't difficult. It should have been really relevant. Giving us a glimpse into the hardships faced by an immigrant family in that situation through the eyes of the protagonist should have been all too easy. But those issues, while touched on, never go deeper than the surface level. When a mosque is vandalized, it doesn't seem to affect Javed much. When the recession hits, we don't see much of the effect on the general populace, and though we see how hard it is for Javed's parents financially, the people around them are miraculously unaffected. Perhaps I cannot see the deeper context because this is supposed to be viewed through the lens of a culture I am not part of. Having not been raised in a Muslim immigrant family, I really don't know the inner workings of how such a family would react to these situations, but it's the job of the film to help us see the whys and hows. Instead, we have a few sparse token acknowledgments that, yep, racism is bad and it hurts people, but we never get an idea of why the people being targeted react the way they do, or why we should care other than, yeah, racism is bad. Well, we kind of know that already. Give us a more personal look into the people involved. But instead, it's time for another music montage where Javed and his buddies gallivant and sing, and all is right with the world. I couldn't help but be struck by the thought that everyone around Javed would only see this young man singing out of tune with no music in their ears, while he had his headphones firmly planted in place, giving him a soundtrack the rest of the world was unable to hear. Maybe that was the stylistic point? But it made me wonder why the rest of the crowd reacted so strongly to the squeaks and squawks of one gawky kid. This is a musical played as reality where the extras can't hear the orchestra. Dream sequences and fantasies are interwoven clumsily with harsh realism. The logic is uneven, and that's why it falls apart in spite of its good intentions. I do remember what it was like to be a 16-year-old boy, angry at the world and wanting more from life. I know teenagers can be pretty self-absorbed and selfish, not looking too far beyond their own wants. Maybe that's what we're seeing here. It is supposed to be from that point of view, but while the lead goes through an arc, it is a very shallow one. The way he comes to understand and love his own culture rather than resenting it, and the way he learns to appreciate his family is almost endearing. But it comes mostly on the backdrop of him getting everything he wants with seemingly little to no effort. Somewhere inside this misguided romp is a movie that had something to say. It was simply mishandled. I wish nothing but success to the players and the author of the story that inspired it. I just cannot see this being a movie that goes on to resonate through the ages, except with those happy few who find something of themselves in the story and go on to credit it as their own inspiration. To them, I say, may God bless your journey, and I hope you make something that inspires the next generation the way this movie inspired you. I seem to be in the minority in my feelings that the movie was boring and could have been made better, as so many others out there are praising it. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm saying I can't see what they see, and I was personally bored throughout the duration. If you love it and you find something deeper, then God bless you, that's great. Maybe I'm too tired, old, and cynical to be wowed over by yet another lackluster coming-of-age film that plays the same music box notes I've heard 47,000 times before. Other movies did it better, and this one, well, you shouldn't bother getting off the couch for it. It isn't bad, but it ain't great either. And that is it tonight for Hugh's Reviews. As always, I would like to thank our underwriters at Moons of Vega Photography. Give them a shout and let them know Hugh sent you. They do great work, and they are wonderful people to work with. Also, if you have any suggestions, thoughts, responses to my reviews, or you just want to see me take a look at an old classic that you personally love, drop me a line at WXPI Radio of Williamsport. Happy viewing!